Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Breakfast with Disaster. It's hard to believe we're on our 102nd episode right now.
Starting a whole new season.
Yeah, whole new season, bunch of thrills. I know, and I was wondering, I'm like, do people even really eat breakfast during Breakfast with Disaster, or are you guys just drinking coffee over there? So feel free to throw it in the comments. Just curious. Uh,
Are we ruining anybody's breakfast muffin?
Yeah, we could be with some of the gross stories that we talk about. Um, so this morning we have a nice show planned. What we're going to discuss, and I'm sure a lot of you guys at home have pets, dogs, cats, birds, things, and so on and so forth. But we're going to talk about the dangers of mold and how they play a factor in a dog's health,
Yep.
and not necessarily just a dog, but any pet in general. So we're going to kind of just discuss some of the symptoms and some things that kind of look out for that might be a cue to let you know that there might be something else going on, right?
Right. Because a lot of these things people don't realize could be mold. They think, oh, my dog or cat, they have some allergies. They may have a little skin issue.
Mhm.
Turns out that could be an early warning sign of mold growth.
Yeah,
This is the time of the year where we're dealing with a lot of the freezing, the thawing, so moisture's getting in the walls. Mold can begin to form less than 24 hours
yeah,
after water exposure into these areas. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on your four-legged friends or your beaked or scaled friends and to make sure that they're not exhibiting any of these symptoms.
yeah. And you actually brought up a pretty solid point earlier when you said like cats like to lay in the windowsill, and that's 100% of the time that's it. They love to because they like to be able to look out, keep an eye out, and everything.
Yep, and
But that's a lot of times where you can see some mold growth.
yep,
Um,
especially if your weather stripping is poor,
yeah,
you might notice a little bit of mildew, but when the mildew's growing, there could definitely be something bigger behind the wall.
sure. And your cat could be, basically lying right on it. So just, something precautionary, just something to look out for. Check your windows, see if just the weather
Hmm.
stripping, make sure you don't have any like drafts coming through or any visible mold itself. And also to keep an eye on. Speaking of symptoms, I'm just going to kind of touch base here with some of them. Basic symptoms that you would see like a normal cold and flu, but for
Hmm.
like a pet, you're going to see like runny nose, itchy and runny eyes. Sometimes they get like skin infections. It might be harder to see on a cat or dog that has like a darker fur. So you might want to, what are those combs called where you like almost like the flea comb, but you can pull it back to see their skin.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a good method to kind of check it out on that too as well. Just kind of make sure there's nothing.
Yeah, I know dogs and cats, they can get what's called a hot spot where
Yep.
they're always chewing or always itching at something, but that could be a symptom of something larger.
Yeah. Yeah. And in no way are we professional veterinarians.
Not in the least.
So we're not trying to give you any advice, just like a mini disclaimer, as far as like going to the vet is going to be what you should do in all
So that should
scenarios.
always be your first step if you notice any abnormal symptoms in your pet. Uh, One of the things I want to mention too is checking your pet's beds, like your
Yeah.
dog bed, your cat bed, especially if they have, or if they have like piles of clothes they like to sleep in, certain
Yeah.
closets. Check out for the smell. One of the symptoms I found for mold can be wet dog smell.
Yeah.
Can be descriptor for mold. But if you're like, well, my dog hasn't been outside, we just took him to the groomers. Why am I smelling wet dog where he's sleeping?
Yeah.
Check it out for mold.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be, or it could be the exact opposite where your dog's outside a lot and you're like, my dog always smells
Yeah,
like a wet dog. So you might be like, oh, I don't think anything of it, but there could be something else going on. You're confusing the smell with your dog smell. So, but no, very solid point. Thank you. Um, like you were mentioning too, persistent scratching. I think you just
yeah,
mentioned on that too.
yeah. Chewing, scratching. If you have birds, birds will begin to pluck their own feathers to try to alleviate that skin irritation.
Interesting.
They'll
Now
cut
they
themselves, unfortunately.
now do they do that only when that's happening, or they do that like
Parrots will do it also when they're stressed.
when they're
They're not
stressed?
getting enough attention. There are some behavioral issues with the large parrots that will cause self plucking.
Interesting.
But if your bird's never exhibited those behaviors before and all of a sudden
Yeah.
he starts plucking, we
Interesting.
want to watch out for mold skin irritations.
Interesting. Did not know that. Um, coughs and like wheezing sounds. So like if you notice like a hoarse sound in your like from your dog or cat's natural meow or bark. If you notice anything kind of different like that, that's another thing you want to kind of keep an eye out. They might have some sort of respiratory infection of some sort. Obviously, nose or mouth bleeding. Obviously, those are very
Straight to the
visible
vet.
signs that there's a much bigger issue going on.
Because one of the
Um,
reasons for that, but going along with vomiting
yeah,
as well, especially if your pet isn't prone to that, where are you keeping his food?
yeah,
Is their food in a safe, dry, airtight container, or is it being kept in the original bag in the closet? Because food can get moldy
yeah.
as well, and if your animal eats that, it opens you up to a range of digestive issues as well.
Absolutely. Especially if it's in a cold, dark closet.
Mm.
It's almost like the perfect, it doesn't even have to necessarily be cold, but if there's like
Just damp.
damp in there at all, yeah,
Yeah.
even with it being sealed, you could get condensation almost building up in there. So yeah, if you can do it, do those sealed containers, or at least take a rubber band and try to wrap the end, get all the air out, make sure it's airtight. Um, so you're not, avoiding risks that you don't not necessarily have to take. So,
Right.
um, interesting too, which doesn't surprise me, but if like they actually ingested like a pack, like a huge thing of mold, and they didn't even realize they had eaten it, what could people kind of expect? From what I read here, it's just kind of like some gastrointestinal things that are going on,
Yeah.
basically.
Could be loose stools. It could be excessive vomiting.
Yeah,
It could be a disinterest in food.
yeah,
They will lose their appetite. They will refuse to eat because their stomachs are upset.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
And it's hard to always pinpoint too, because especially dogs, they get into everything.
Yes.
So you really, it could be something they found outside. It could be, um,
Well,
it's always a mystery with dogs, but
mold
never know.
does occur outside as well.
Yeah, yep,
Could be getting into something they shouldn't be. Additionally, if your pets like to spend a lot of time down in your basements, if you have a furnished basement, and your animal's spending a lot of time down there, and you're finding that they're scratching and itching,
yeah,
you could have a leak coming through somewhere in the piping.
yeah, yeah. And this is the time of year, like we talked about in the last episode, with like pipes bursting, but always want to make sure that back to the drafts, you don't want any drafts coming in anywhere from any of even the windows in the basement. They might have those, what are those glass block
The block
windows?
windows,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes those can get damaged. Believe it or not, even just like the caulk going around it.
Hmm.
Make sure that, everything's secure there as well. So, cool. And obviously, when you take your dog to the vet, they typically will prescribe like antihistamines to alleviate like allergies and antibiotics to fight off infections, stuff like that. But hopefully it doesn't get to that. So the whole idea of this is just kind of letting you know what to look out for and ways to prevent it from happening in the first place, because that's
Right.
the ideal situation. We don't want anybody's pets to be exposed to mold. But if so, we want to know at least how you can get out of the situation.
Yeah, because
Um,
our pets are smaller, they're lower to the ground, they're more likely to come into contact with mold spores before it gets to the concentration where it'll affect humans.
yeah,
So this is your early warning sign. Like keep an eye on your pets, watch your pets. If they're having these issues, get them to the vet,
yeah,
give ServPro a call, get us out there to find where the moisture's coming from. We'll do the mold test. We'll
yeah,
tell you what's going on. We'll get you dried up. We'll get you and your pets back into your home safely so that you no longer have to worry about your babies
yeah,
having issues.
yeah.
Because nobody ever wants to see that.
No. And what does it hurt if we do free estimates? What does it hurt? What would it
Exactly.
hurt? You know what I mean?
And let's
At
get in there
least,
and find out.
yeah. And at least, we can come in there and check some moisture levels too, and just,
Mhm.
make sure the environment isn't inducive for mold growth.
Right.
So, awesome. Well, that was good stuff. Kind of discussed where mold grows. Obviously, damp, dark areas like your basement is probably the most common, but you can also find it out in like if you have like a mud room
Hmm.
where you use the sink in there a lot and things like that. You can get some leaks in there behind where the faucet is, things like that. So like your mud rooms, your utility tubs, check those, make sure everything's good on those too. So
And it's always good to remember black mold doesn't necessarily have to be black. It can come in red, it can come in yellow, it
yeah,
can come in green. Toxic molds, not necessarily just black you're looking for.
yeah,
And the smells alone, not just wet dog, but I've heard it described as gym sock smell
yeah,
or like musty, earthy sort of dirt smell.
yeah,
Those are
and
great warning signs to watch out for.
yeah, and it's not always toxic mold either. It's like some people freak out when they
Yeah.
see black because they think, oh, it's black mold, it's going to kill me and all that. So it's like before you have a professional come in and actually do the mold test, don't freak out and assume it's the worst type, but it is something that you want to take seriously, though.
Yeah, because the toxic molds create the mycotoxins.
Yeah.
That's what's going to affect you. But there are also allergen molds that are going to give you the itchy, runny eyes, the runny nose,
Yeah.
the sneezy cough.
Yep.
Don't want to let those go, though, because that will eventually build up over time and
Oh,
cause more serious issues.
100%. 100%. Cool. Let's see what else we got on the table here. Kind of went over that already with you guys. We won't get into really like the 5 different types of categories because not only pronunciation alone,
Yeah.
but I don't think it really is going to be necessary considering like for most general people to have to know the different types of mold and how to
No,
identify it.
no. If we end up doing a mold test for you, we will tell you
Yeah.
what variety of mold it is and the concentration.
Yep.
But in the long run, just watch out for the smells, watch out for your pet's beds and food,
Yep.
the areas where they spend the majority of their time, and keep an eye on their general health.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially during the wintertime when they're gonna favor a certain spot
Mhm.
more than they would in the summertime. Obviously, given the fact because they're not going to be outside as much.
Mhm.
So that's why we mentioned check your windowsills and any areas where you might have some drafts coming in. So
Check your vents, check your air registers, make sure you don't have any smells coming through them
yeah,
because that can transport spores.
yep, 100%. Awesome. Well, hopefully you guys found this a little helpful. And so right after the show, we expect everybody to go check their windowsills and make sure. uh, but yeah, no, appreciate you guys joining us this morning. Let's go ahead and jump right into the Wheel of Names. See who our winner is. You promised like 5 people they would win this week, didn't you?
I keep hoping it'll come up.
All right, 121. Wow, that is amazing. So the Terra Novas, Travis Terra Nova, have won, I think, 3 times in the last 2 months. So you guys definitely have rigged our Wheel of Names. So we're gonna have to put in an investigation on this. But no, congratulations, Daryl. I will stop by. Now I got to bring you 2 prizes because I still have the one from the last time. So, congratulations. I know a lot of you guys watch over there at that office too, in particular. So thank you for watching. And everybody else, thank you for watching this morning as well. Thanks for being on the show too.
My
We
pleasure.
appreciate it. We will see you guys next week here at 10:10 on Tuesday. Have a good rest of your week.
Bye, everybody.